Good evening, everybody. Hope you're all well. For a change, the sun was shining. It was a really lovely day, wasn't it? Hope you're all doing well. Lots of you have joined, which is really lovely. Hello, Kim, Gemma, Deb, Linda. Oh, lost my train. Carol, Sue. Now, Linda's. Oh, and Francis. Hello, Francis. I couldn't see your comment in the thread there. Right, let's expand those comments a little bit. Right, so tonight's live. And hello, Trisha. Hello, Christine. Hello, Emma. Lovely to have you all join. So tonight we're going to be doing a bangle, which is quite a uncomplicated wire wrapping. And to be honest with you, I want to explore some different gauge wires with you because quite honestly, when I've looked at books in the past for projects, I've always thought you've got to have everything to the book that the person that's written the pattern has suggested. But what I'd like to do in this is to explore perhaps different gauge wires. I always work in millimeters. Some people work in gauge, but different thicknesses to get the same results. So that's what we're going to do tonight. So I'm going to do a crystal rondelle one first, and then we're going to do another one with crystal rondelles but smaller and finer. Oh good lord, Linda's watching on telly. That's quite a frightening prospect, the thought of me being on the telly, but I suppose I should be used to it by now, shouldn't I? Having said that, I have another one coming up, Create and Craft. What's it? 13th of May. 13th of May. Looking forward to it. Right, so let's go on the overhead. Hope it's not going to play me up because Sunday was a right pain in the whatsits. Right, now for those of you that actually purchased the Crackle glass bead box, this was one of the beads that I used out of one of them, and I'm using 6mm, but for the demonstration I'm going to use 5x6 rondelles, then 3x4. But to be honest, you could try this with any size that feels comfortable around the wrist. Now, just to talk you through, you don't have to have the handmade clasp on there. You can actually just use a simple lobster clasp on there as well. Now on this one, I threaded all the beads on a 0.8mm wire, and I've used the same wire to go back over those beads. But I have to say, I find it quite tough on your hands going back with the 0.8. So I've been experimenting and I found it easier to load all the beads on a 0.8 and then wire wrap in a 0.6mm, but I'll show you what I mean in a second. Now this is another one that I've done using the same technique, using 0.8 as well, and that's just a single wrap. I haven't put the clasp on it yet. Now this one, same colours except I've gone rose gold, and this time I've got 0.8mm base and 0.6mm wrapping. Can you see, because it's so soft, I've gone round once, then once in the middle, and I think that gets a much neater effect. So anyway, let's get cracking. Hello Francis, everybody's looking forward to it. Oh brilliant, I'm glad I'm glad you are, and I hope I can maintain that excitement. Oh dear. Now Francis Watkins and I, we did a demonstration with a Mothers Union at the local church. What day was it, Francis? It was Tuesday, wasn't it? And I was demonstrating some stretch bracelets and took some things along for them to make. And yeah, I went to tie it, said this is how you do it, this is how you do it, and ping, the elastic snapped. And you know what? Everybody loves mistakes, don't they? We all love a good old mistake because it makes us all feel quite human, doesn't it? Hello Maxine, hello Jackie. So these are actually in the thread. I don't think the cameras pick it up that well, but there's this like sapphire type bounce off of it as well. So these are 6x5s. It was a hoot. I mean, they were like naughty children. Absolutely hilarious. We had a blast, didn't we? And they loved it because Francis and I made them teas as well. We're quite familiar on in the Croft, which is where the venue's held, and it's also where the venue's going to be for our social event on the 20th of May. Anyway, I need to stop babbling, don't I, and cracking on. So first of all, what we're going to do, I'm going to use two different colours just so that you can actually see what's happening. Now, if you fancy having a go at this but you don't fancy actually investing too much in wire, then the little wire bundles I've put up will be ideal, absolutely ideal for this. So I'm just going to move this because it's not quite where I want it to be. There we go. Where's my straightening pliers? I don't know if any of you have come across these. I know some of you have in the thread, but they're nylon tip pliers. So they remind me of straightening irons, is they just get those kinks out of your wire. So what we're going to do first of all is a wire wrap loop. So you're going to need your looping pliers, which are the ones where the loop will get bigger the further down the pliers you go. So have about an inch, inch and a half coming out the end, and have the wire wherever you feel you'd like the size of the loop. So we're going to bring that round like so. What you can always do if you want to make sure that they're the same either side is pop a little Sharpie pen mark on the pliers. It will rub off afterwards. So you've done that little loop like so, and I'm just going to clamp it with some chain nose pliers and wrap that round a couple of times. Oh Kim, that is such a good name. Kim calls them kinky pliers. Oh, I've not heard of that. That's brilliant. Right, the side cutters. You've got a flat side and a side that's kind of got a bit of a, I don't know what you'd call it, bit of a dome shape. Always have the flat side against where you're cutting so that you can get a really nice cut on there. Hold on to the excess wire. And then with your chain nose pliers, just, I've never heard of pliers being called kinky before. Oh dear, we're in the gutter again. So just take your time to just flatten that. Jane says she's having a few technical issues. Kids have been playing on my laptop, taking an age to sort. Might need to watch on catch up. Not to worry, Jane. Right, I would say cut enough to make the inner circle plus an extra 4 to 5 inches. Okay, so there's the loop. The empty end, we're going to add all of our beads on. Now what I'd say is measure it on your tape measure, and knowing sort of what your bracelet size is going to be, and don't forget to allow for the clasp as well, because you could end up with it being too long. Right, so there we go. The wire is 0.8mm, Maxine, and that we're using right now, but we're going to switch in a moment. Oh, They've been, so Linda's kicked the family out so she can watch me on TV. Oh dear. I hope it comes across all right. And Francis lost me completely. Hopefully that's just because of reception. I hope you're all managing to get a good reception. Now, when we get to the end and do another wire wrap loop, you need to add a little bit extra. You need to make a bit of a gap, because otherwise it'll be too tight. Oh, I'm doing my usual, throwing everything around. Now, I am hoping next week to do an auction on Thursday, because the idea was to do it on the last Thursday of every month, but I've just been a little bit out of sync. So all being well, we're going to do another auction, but this time it will be items either under 8 or under 5. I'm going to try and keep it under 5 if I can, but yeah, I'll keep you posted anyway. Right, so I've got all of those on there. What you might want to do is you might want to measure it, make sure that it fits within your bracelet size, take into account the extra size of the clasp. So we're going to go to the other end and do a wire wrap loop. Now make sure that you leave a gap of, I would say, about 3 to 4 millimeters from the last bead. It's just so that it gives it some wriggle room when you're doing your wire wrapping. Okay, so let's just show you that. So that's, let's just measure that. It's about 3 mil. Hello Nikki. Right, so going to clamp that, and then we're going to do a couple of loops. Bear in mind, of course, that those wire wrap loops, those wraps are going to take up some of that space as well. Yes, another auction. I do love the auctions, and I think Mum really enjoys doing them as well. Well, I hope she does. She doesn't really have a choice, does she? Right, okay, so let's just show you where we're at. So it's 0.8 and we've cut both of those wires off. If you wanted to continue with the 0.8 and you don't mind it super thick, you can just carry on back round. But I found it was a lot easier having the 0.6. Now what you can do on this to save wastage is just work directly from the reel. It does take up a little bit of wire, so I'm using it in rose gold. I don't know if you can really see. So I'm just going to wire wrap over the top of that gold. So I'm going to have, I need a bit of bigger tail than that just so that I can clamp it. So just to show you again, I've got my tail there. Having a bigger tail just helps you to be able to clamp it. So I'm just going over those wire wrap loops. We can cut the tail off afterwards. Right, so I'm keeping the wire on my reel and I'm going to go across the bead. Let's just get in a bit closer, shall we? Right, so we're going to go across the bead, round the back, and do a full wrap in the middle. So it's kind of like 1.5, and then bring it round. So you're doing it at an angle every time. So bring it over, one full wrap, and then one wrap round. So can you see? One at an angle and one round the middle. So let's do that again. one at an angle and then another one. So I guess it's kind of 2 full wraps, isn't it? Okay with that so far? So at an angle, so I'm guessing if you imagine you're going from 11 o'clock to 5 o'clock, going around the back, and then you're doing 12 to 6. Does that make sense? That's in terms of where you're positioning that wire. So 11 to 5 and then 12 down to 6. And once you've done a couple, you can get into a bit of a rhythm with it. Now on some of the others with the thicker wire, I have literally just done a half, just the 11 till 5 wrap. Isn't that just so pretty? I'm just keeping it straight for now. You don't have to bend it. So 11 to 5. Occasionally the clock does go out slightly, but the good thing is because 0.6 mil is quite a soft wire, then you can actually manipulate where they've gone slightly. Now I have used this technique, I have seen this technique used as well in making dragonflies. That's just made me think we could do making some dragonflies, couldn't we? Sorry, I think I went off piece there a bit. Yeah, so they used, I've seen this used to make the tail. Now I do think in terms of the 0.6, I reckon there's probably about 1.5 meters to 2 meters. So when we get to the end, we're just going to wrap over the top, or you could just do one single wrap if you don't mind that colour showing. And we're going to snip again, make sure that tucks in, and then we're going to bring that round. I haven't trimmed off this one. The flat, oh, I'm glad you're catching the flashes from the beads, because it really is quite pretty. Sue is saying yes to dragonfly. Isn't it funny, as you're making things, do you get this at home when you're making things, you sort of have a bit of a, oh yeah, I could try that. But can you see how it's really maintaining its shape so well, and all you've got really is that 0.8 millimeter on the inside. You don't really need you don't need a bracelet mandrel or anything like that. You know, if you want to have it a little bit more shaped, you could always find something that you can wrap round it, but I think organically is absolutely fine. So you could either attach your jump ring to the end with don't even need a jump ring on the other end, you could just pop that on there. Or you could make a clasp, the hook and loop. Excuse me. So let's have a look at the hook and loop clasp. So for the hook and loop clasp, I would be inclined to use 0.8 or 1 mil. Okay. Yeah, 1 mil thick or 0.8. Now, first of all, to do the figure of 8, I like to go at the bottom of my pliers, turn it all the way round. Oh dear, that's not very good. Let's start again. Now what happened there is, if you go right down to the bottom of your pliers, can you see in the inside I've got a flat part there? That's kicked out the shape. So that's trying to avoid that really bottom part. Right, so you do one side and then you position it the other side like so, and you bring it round like so. It's quite simple. It's just remembering how it goes, and then use your cutters to pop that like that. Just give it a cut. So that's your figure of 8. And then for the hook and loop clasp, I think I've got just enough. It doesn't take a lot. So for the hook, what I would suggest is a pencil. One of David's, I'm sure he'll tell me after. You're using my pencil. Right, pop that round your pencil and turn a loop like so. So you're making kind of a shepherd's hook really, and then just below that hook on the other side, bring that round to form a loop and cut. Make sure the flat part of your pliers is in line with the other side of that wire. There we go. Now if you're using 0.8, I would suggest that you do a bit of hammering, and if you've never done this before, I mean, if you haven't got a hammer, no worries, I've just used thicker wire or use a clasp. What hammering does is it work hardens the wire, which means that when you hammer it, it makes it stronger and it makes it solid. So you would just go round it and just hammer on that. I'd do it both sides. Now I've done previous videos before which will show you using a planishing hammer, which is a metal hammer, how you can actually softly texture them as well. Can't remember which one it was, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so that's worked hard on that. So let's go back to this, and a bit like a jump ring, we're just going to open that up slightly. To be honest, what you could always do with this one is, if your loop was small enough, let's just make that loop a bit smaller just so that you can see what I mean. If your loop is small enough, this bit, you can hook it into that loop at the end. You just open that up, pop that on there. Now if it's kind of straining a little bit, then what you can do is actually turn these loops so that they sit a bit better. So you could either have it like that, or you could actually add one of those on the other end, either or. Okay, so let me know your thoughts, how you find that. Is that sort of inspiring you? Is there anything you thought of that you could use this for? Because what we always like to do is bounce ideas, don't we? Now what we're going to look at next is we are going to look at doing a smaller one with a finer wire. You're very welcome, Maxine. So let's just pop that to one side. Oops, I'm just tidying up as I go. Now these are in the thread as well, these tiny little 3x4 crystals. I'm not I actually haven't done this before, so it could go horribly wrong. But there's only one way to find out, and I think this is the thing in jewellery making, isn't it? Is, you know, try these different things out. And if it doesn't work, worst case scenarios, you've lost a little bit of wire, or you could, as Kim calls the kinky pliers, you can use your kinky pliers to iron those out. Right, so let's start with the wire wrap loop at the start. That is a lovely idea. Maxine is saying use a gradient of beads to make an icicle. I like that idea. I think that is wonderful. Earrings, necklace and part of a sun catcher. Fantastic. And this is what I love, is that between us all we can come up with so many different designs and perhaps things that we haven't thought about ourselves that might just inspire somebody else to try something new. Do you know, Francis, it's only because you're online. Francis said, did I hear you say tidying up as you go? Yeah, it's only because you're there, Francis, keeping a beady eye. Oh dear. Right, so I'm just threading these on. But I was just seeing whether or not you'd actually pick up on that. I can work with so many things out, and I have got so much admiration for people like Francis that are super tidy, that have their desk just what they need out. I'm getting there, but it's very difficult, and my mum's exactly the same. Anybody else find it I find it so difficult. It even, like, down to stringing beads. Some people could just get out, right, just get out that and that, and they're done with it. They know what they're doing. But for me, I need like 20 things out, because I might need that other one. Yes, Trisha, this is 0.8mm wire. Let the elves do it when she's gone to bed. That would be so lovely. Kim has to have lots out as well. I'm happy with I'm happy that I'm not the only one. So does Sue and Deb. Oh, Frances says she doesn't miss much. Jackie is messy when making it. Tidiness stints my creativity. Is that convincing enough? Not really. You do as well, Kim. So you think, oh, I get those out, and then get those beads out, and then you find something in your box, and you think, oh, I forgot I got those. Oh, I might need those for something else. And then I try and remind myself that I can't do two projects at once. You like that quote? It stints my creativity. I must admit, I do like being able to close the door on my little den. Organised mess, of course it is. Right, so this is a nice size to do if you're someone that likes really delicate bracelets. I'm going to stop it there, so this is a small one. We'll do the same again. We'll leave a space of about 3 to 4 mils. Just going to bring that up a little bit so that there's still a bit of space by the time I've done my wire wrap loop. And then, so I'm clamping the circle and just doing a couple of those. And trim. Right, so we've got the basic bit done, so we don't need that. So I am going to use 0.4mm because I want to show you and test out, as I said, I haven't done it before, whether or not it works with a smaller gauge thread on the top. Emma says she usually has a bead left over, and oh, I'll put that back later because later never comes and the beads and bits mount up. Yep, got that as well. Got my little pot at the side. Right. So, oh, we're going at a different angle this time. Well, that just confuses things, doesn't it? So this time I'm going 7 till 2 is my natural. So I guess we take from that you just go at the same angle each time. Let's just zoom in a bit more. It's difficult to see the 0.4mm wire, isn't it? I think you can see that. So this time we're going 7 to 2 and 6 till 12. Let's put that over there. I must have just started from a different angle, but it just, whatever feels naturally right for you, but just make sure that your angles are all the same. But I just want to show you that with some projects you can work with the gauge wire that you've got in your stash. And also, because you've got very tiny beads, you wouldn't really want to cover them with a bulky wire. Right, there we go. Now, every now and then, with my pots and stuff, what I do is I put them all in a bag and I donate them to the local scrap store. And then I just have to make sure that when I go to the scrap store, I don't suddenly have a moment and think, oh, I'll buy those, and realise that actually they're the ones that I donated. Now notice I'm just popping my nail underneath the lower one every now and then just to stabilise it. Now if you're doing lots of wire work, I love wire work, but I don't like doing lots of it all at once because I find it shreds my nails. So a friend of mine that does all beauty and nails, she said the best thing you can do is, if you're doing lots of wire work, is to actually have nail varnish on, because what it does is it puts a coat on top of your nails and it protects them from snapping and, you know, taking off like some of the surface of your nails. The other thing that I use as well, I haven't used for a little while actually, is I think it's almond oil that's specially for nails. I think you can buy it from Superdrug and Boots, and you just paint it on. It's literally like an oil that paints on in the same way as nail varnish, and it just helps to keep your nails conditioned. I've got great admiration for people that do constant wire working, because it makes my nails tingle after a while as well, which is quite bizarre. So you could use 0.3 or 0.4 with this as well. And you could do this for earrings, couldn't you? Right, so just go over the top there. I'll come back to your comments in just a second. Oh, sorry. Right, let's cut that off. Ruins your acrylic nails as well. Oh, that's not good, is it? I think that's worked really well. I rather like that. So that's the smaller one. Let's add a clasp to this one. I'm just going to reduce the... There we go. Let's just reduce the zoning in. It's really quite pretty, isn't it? So those are the 3x4mm rondelles. Now I'm going to turn that so that they're facing the right way. Still nice and sturdy. If you've got a bracelet mandrel, you could always shape it on there if you wish. I'm going to do it the other side, and I'm going to use that loop as the clip. Right, so if you've never done any jump ring opening before, so using open jump rings, have the slot at the 12 and just open that. 2 sets of pliers, rocking action rather than tearing it apart where you put it out of shape, and then just turn that back to where it was. Now if it's the right size, what you could do is just use that other side for the clip. Let's just go in a little bit. So there you go. So that's the one in a small size, and that's the ones in the bigger size. Now, because we've got a little bit of time, I'm going to actually try and make an earring. Let's just pop that in the vision. Just have a quick look at your comments. I think we're terrible for having these little pots of spare beads, aren't they? The only place you don't have random beads is the bathroom. Do you know why? I even find them in the bathroom. I think they get stuck in my clothing. No worries, Deb's got to go. Thanks for joining, Deb. Jackie's been doing lots of wire work lately and my nails are terrible. It hurts, doesn't it? Nikki said her nails are brittle to start with. We're loving these bracelets, brilliant. The other thing you can buy as well, they look like condoms, finger condoms, is you can buy them to go on the ends of your fingers. You know, whether or not that's for you is each to their own. But perhaps if you've got anything in particular that works for you, nail-wise, is share it in our beading group, Beaders of Beads by Virtue. Right. Do you know, I'm thinking as well, how about an eye pin? Right, bear with. Because I'm just thinking, how about having a pre-formed eye pin like so for your earring, because we've still got plenty of time. Got to go. No worries. Thanks for joining, Francis. Right, so just pop some on a head pin. Are they any good, the finger condoms? I'm not sure. I've never used them. I think they do them for card making as well, because I remember Leonie, one of the presenters, being in absolute hysterics over the fact that she got to like promote these condom like things. Right, so we're going to turn it at an angle. So we're not going to do a wire wrap loop for this. Trim it down and turn that back. Now I haven't left any extra on that one, so let's see how that turns out. Nikki has got craft stuff in every room but the hall and the bathroom and my bedroom. Oh, I drive everybody crazy with it, honestly. Right, so tail under your non-dominant hand, wrap it round. Oh, we're going for the 7 till 2 again this time. 7 till 2, wrap. So I think it was Emma's suggestion. Emma, great suggestion. I'd never given that a thought until you mentioned it. Isn't that sweet? So what you could do at the bottom is you could have a head pin. Oh, next Creating Craft is 13th of May. 9 o'clock in the morning. So I'm rather looking forward to that. Yeah, I think we'll do a bit of a swirl at the bottom, Emma. Right, so we've just done a loop. Bit of a big loop, I think. And then I'm just going to kick that back like so. And I think we'll put a couple on there because it looks a bit ridiculous with just one and a big loop, big spiral. So let's cut that down, turn it at right angle, turn it back, and then open up. Whoopsie. I feel like I've got to add an earring hook now just to properly finish it off. You know, I said it was tidy. I think that's just gone out the window. So I'm going to open up the earring hook, pop that on there, close that up. There we go. So you've got a pair of earrings and a bracelet to match. Maybe you'd go for the gold instead if you were combining the two, wouldn't you? You'd go for the gold and silver to match, but never mind, it gives you an idea. I love the movement in that as well. I'm liking that. So I do hope you've enjoyed. Nikki's saying not just beads, crochet, quilting, paint and mixed media, the kids think it's great. That's like mine. Everything I have a go at, most things. It's wonderful though, isn't it? Crafting is just amazing. Oh, Francis giving up as internet keeps failing. Well, we are just coming to an end now, so thank you so much. This will be on YouTube at some point over the next couple of weeks. I've got another one from last week ready to go. But don't forget, if you have opportunity to make anything that has been inspiring you from this tutorial, please share it in our beaders group, Beaders of Beads by Rachel, and pop over and see our lovely admin ladies, Kim, Francis and Linda. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.